daily press releases about things that are really inconsequential, you ruin your chances of getting noticed when something really significant happens in your orbit. So I'd be really careful about what you consider to be newsworthy. And you know, of course, if, you know, in the business world, they'll craft, you know, press releases on changes in staff, and do things like that. But again, I think
and those
how
things
you
don't
put it
have a
across.
hook, Lynn, do they? They don't have a hook. So
They
people think it's
don't.
really, you know, they think it's so important. Well, when so-and-so got to another level, truthfully, it is important to that individual, but it's not important to the outside world. And that's what's very hard to get across to people. It's so true. It's so true.
Right. Why do I care? And you know what? Sometimes there are instances where you should care. Maybe this person's had a particular journey, you know, that's of interest, and you can craft that new stepping stone in a way, you know, that makes mention of all of those, you know, previous steps, or that background, you know, from homeless to Harvard or whatever. Suddenly, it's not just, you know, hey, she's got a new title, but this is why it's significant, or something like that. Make us care.
That's, of course, that goes back to that book, you know. But what kinds of things could hurt my brand? In other words, how can I screw it up, basically?
How can you screw it up? You know, I don't really, like you said earlier, sometimes, you know, even bad PR is good PR. So I don't really think too much in terms of how people can screw things up, because even if you screw it up, you can still, you know, you can still find a way to spin it in your favor, I think.
Well, that's good to know.
And then, yeah, and then to that, you know, I've seen people who have, you know, injected themselves into a conversation on a national level, and then one person, you know, takes issue with it, and then the next day they come out and apologize and grovel. And to me, I think if you have an opinion, stand by it. You know, stick to your guns, so to speak. Be bold, be brave, you know, because sometimes the groveling and all of that looks even worse for you and your brand, and can leave a bad taste in people's mouth.
Well, I'm not even going to bring up the presidential primaries, because we could get into an entire conversation about that on that subject. But let me ask you, what if I'm unknown? What if I am not a household name? What's the best way for me to stand out? In fact, I was listening to something yesterday, and the person was saying, you know, it isn't important that everybody knows who you are. What's important is that the people who are your potential customers know who you are. So that might be a local thing, it might be a national thing, it might be an international thing. But again, some people, I want to be known everywhere by everyone. And really, it's important that they be known in a specific geographic area or a specific industry by a certain target population. So what is the best way to stand out if you are unknown?
Yeah, well, I always shoot for the big things first. If time's a crucial factor, for instance, for a political candidate who's unknown or something like that, and if time is a crucial element, you really need to get known now rather than later, I always, you know, get a bunch of my people in a room and we start brainstorming what you would refer to as a PR stunt, or just something that can more readily inject you into the national dialogue. I shoot there first, and then, you know, continue on with the day-to-day things and manage those. But I always try and craft something big, because that's what's going to drive the momentum and get that person noticed and have a more lasting impact.
So, what is the biggest obstacle do you find in getting more PR?
I think just a general willingness to ask or say, what if, something really simple like that. Because a lot of times people, will be their own obstacle, thinking, oh, that could never work, or that person would never be interested. But I've literally picked up the phone and called up an executive at a movie studio and said, hey, I have this non-for-profit, and it's just like, so similar to this movie you have coming out. What do you say we do something? And they'll be like, okay, this is a great idea, So not being afraid to just, bring other people in to your whirlwind ideas can sometimes be an obstacle.
Well, I'm sure you have whet the appetite of some of our listeners. So how can they get in touch with you, Lyn? Where will they find you?
Yeah, they can visit www.farmhousecreative.com, and that's FARMHAUS creative.com, and reach out to me through there.
Okay, so that's farmhouse, and that's not the regular house. It's HAUS, so it's farm, FARM, house, HAUS creative.com. Now, I also want to ask you, Lyn, because this is a story or it's a program about women in business. What are some obstacles that you faced as a woman in business? Anything at all that comes to mind?
I think it's more, sometimes me, which is my own greatest obstacle. Trying to do everything myself. If I could, encourage business owners to do one thing, that would be outsourcing, getting help for those things that you're not great at or don't have an interest in, because it's more cost effective. If you're keeping focused on the things that you love and generating revenue, other people can be focused on things like website design and graphic design and all the things that people tend to want to get, consumed with when they're procrastinating or resisting.
Well, and also stuff that you're not necessarily good at. What's wonderful is that we live in this virtual world where now there are people we can hire virtually. There are people who are looking to do things part-time. Years ago, that was not the case. I mean, there were people who either I went to work for you or I didn't go to work for you. So it's a wonderful time, and you are right on the money when you talk about, being able to outsource, because those of us who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, nobody does it like we do it. But that doesn't mean we're doing it well or that we should be doing it. So
exactly.
That's a really good point. I hope that some of you who are listening to this have an opportunity to meet with Lyn and to experience her expertise in a PR and media field, because there is nothing that will grow your business faster than getting great PR and getting covered in the media. So I strongly suggest that you be in touch with her. And again, her website is farmhouse, HAUS, creative.com. And Lyn Nieman is her name. It's spelled Niemann. And you should definitely take a look at this, because it's one way to really be acknowledged and what I call become famous in your own little world, which is the important thing. So is there anything that we have about a minute left, Lyn? Is there anything else that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Oh, boy. I would say, have fun with it. Because PR, it doesn't need to take itself also seriously. There's a lot that you can get done on your own. Like you mentioned before, that sometimes PR campaigns do take time before they see results, but that doesn't mean you can't get results right away, on a smaller scale. So there's consistent actions that you can take for the long term, but there are also some great short-term things you can do. So Nothing
Well, you
beats
heard it
having
here,
a creative
folks.
brainstorm.
That's right. You heard it here from Lyn Nieman. And remember, visit her at farmhousecreative.com. I want to thank you so much for being with us today, Lyn.
Oh, thanks, Gail. It was a pleasure being with all of you.